Glad you made it back, everybody. It's our ongoing look at the economy. Virus USA, economic shock. We're joined now by our economic panel, economist and writer Stephen Moore, who is a current member of the President's Economic Task Force. Also joined by Dr. John Lott. He is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. Thank you so much for taking the time, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Moore, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has said, we're in a recession not seen since before the Second World War. A, do you agree? And really, how deep is this recession in your view?
Well, look, obviously, when you have the United States government, state government shutting down our private economy, as has happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks, which I believe is going to go down in American history as one of the greatest catastrophes of modern times, you're going to see a massive increase in unemployment. We have 30 to 35 million people unemployed, and that number could continue to go up. We're seeing businesses fail by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. We're seeing millions of Americans placed into poverty. This is a man-made crisis due to a lot of very bad decisions that were made by government at all levels in response to this health pandemic. And it's unfortunately, yeah, but the answer to your question is, Chris, yes. We are in a very deep recession right now, very deep, one of the deepest in the history of this country. But I do think that we're now starting to see states, especially the red states, open up. I do think there's there's some light at the end of the tunnel. But this summer is going to be horrific. We're going to see 20% unemployment rates throughout the summer. People are going to really have a hard time finding a job coming back.
Dr. Lott, I want to pick up on what Mr. Moore was saying here about the childishness of some of our elected leaders and some of the decision-making processes they've been undertaking. For decades, we've been overspending, not we, our elected leaders have been overspending in this country. We say this is how much we'll give you, and they say, oh, we're going to spend a hell of a lot more than that, to the point where we got a real crisis like the China coronavirus here. And now we were already $1 trillion overspending, and now we're looking at 7, 8, possibly $9 trillion in deficit for 1 year. For 1 year. And isn't this a signal that we have to change the way this government proceeds and how it spends?
Sure. I mean, our debt right now is well over 100% of our income. It's going to be generations that are going to be having to pay this back. It's going to have a real impact. Those higher future taxes that people are going to have to pay is going to dampen the incentives that people have to be able to go and produce. But I agree with Steve that this has largely been self-inflicted in terms of the way that we've dealt with this. We're very likely to have a higher unemployment rate now than we had during the depths of the Great Depression. And, we've done things like have unemployment insurance that pays people more for not working than for working. We've never done anything like that. Combine that with other changes that allow people to decide whether or not they're eligible for this or not, creates real problems. You wonder why Democrats fought hard to have those types of things, but in shutting down these states, I have been very concerned about a lot of the misleading data that's been put out there on things like the death rate from the coronavirus in the United States. I mean, it's not just things that, Deborah Brooks will go and point out that the CDC is overcounting by maybe 25% the number of deaths, but even how we define it. They're counting people as dying simply by having the virus. You have 85% of the people who have the virus are asymptomatic. And those types of things. I'm not saying 40,000 deaths is an important number of deaths as opposed to 90,000, but these types of numbers have scared people into overreacting, I think, in ways that are going to really damage the economy for long periods of time. And the sooner that we can open things up, the sooner we're going to be able to try to salvage what we have.
Mr. Moore, I want to pivot to China, and part of, I believe, the economic solution is bringing more manufacturing and more economic prowess back here at home and quit financing our enemies. A new Bloomberg poll says 78% of Americans say they are willing to pay more for products on the promise that they're not made in China. That's a great sign. Don't you think our elected leaders ought to be listening to that?
just want to say something in response to what John was just saying. You know, I can understand some of the mistakes that were made 6 and 8 weeks ago when we were all in a kind of frenzy and a pandemonium about this virus. But here we are 8 weeks later, and governments have not adapted to the reality that John was talking about. We know so much more about this virus now. We now know that it's an old person's disease. If we had done nothing but just kept nursing homes safe and kept the rest of the economy going, we would have had less deaths than shutting down our $20 trillion economy. So, and I'm incensed that there's still 20 governors in America that have kept their economy shut down. It's ludicrous. Now, on China. Look, I'm a free trade guy. I don't like tariffs, but I will say this. I like the idea of the United States trying to move away from China in the supply chain. There are a lot of other countries that could provide these goods and services. Why not Taiwan? Why not Japan? Why not Korea? Why not India? Why not Vietnam? We don't have to depend on China. We're in a cold war with China right now. That's number one. Number two, we need to have reparations payments or sanctions or some kind of a penalty for China's irresponsible, devious behavior that has in many ways contributed to this multi-trillion-dollar loss of Americans' income and wealth. And so I'm very much in favor of taking a very hard line when it comes to the Chinese, because I think that, and by the way, they're not even repentant. They're pretending like they didn't even do anything wrong. And I think Trump would be very wise to take a very hard line with the Chinese and say, you're going to pay us hundreds of billions of dollars for the damage you've done.
Dr. Lott, just pick up again on what Mr. Moore was saying. Chinese are non-repentant, and they've done so much damage to virtually every sector in our country. There are sectors that are badly hurt but could recover. Tell me a sector that has you worried that may never recover.
I mean, the damage is pretty well across the board. But I assume that there are going to be travel industries that are going to be devastated for years. I mean, you're going to have from hotels to other types of recreational things. You're going to have sports that are going to be damaged. You're going to have large areas of the economy which are going to be damaged. But just to pick up on one thing that was just being talked about, one thing that I think needs to be looked at is litigation. That if a private company had done this type of damage, it would be taken to court and would be sued. China, the government owns a lot of these state enterprises which trade with the United States, which have assets in the United States and around the world. There's well-established legal tradition that those assets then could be seized in order to try to compensate for the many trillions of dollars which have been done and damaged, not only in the United States, but around the world. You know, when they go and lie to the WHO or maybe actively get the WHO to go and claim well into January that this wasn't transmitted human to human, those types of claims have real damage to the world economy. And they should be liable, and they have assets around the world that can be seized in order to try to pay for that damage.
Gentlemen, I want to, about 30 seconds from each of you, I want to get you to comment on this. It's something that bugs me because I believe in a government of, by, and for the people. I'm looking at our government right now. I see a lot of our people suffering, but nobody is suffering in government. As a matter of fact, no Republican and no Democrat is out there talking about how government is going to cut back its spending to suffer right along with the people, to do without. Mr. Moore, do you think that American voters should take it out on their elected officials come November?
I do think so, and it was amazing to me that we see 30 to 35 million Americans in the private sector put in the unemployment line, and yet, believe it or not, federal government employment has actually increased during this crisis. What's wrong with that picture?
Not kidding, people are paying the freight.
Right. I think what we ought to do is not have another stimulus there. My concern is that it's going to be just more largesse going out to certain approved political groups that Democrats have or others have. We already have enough there. The thing to do is to concentrate on reopening the economy. And as Steve said, and I agree completely, there's certain vulnerable groups. Protect them and let others be able to go on and get on with the job of producing the wealth for the economy.
Gentlemen,
The only thing I disagree with you, John, on that, let me just say one quick thing. John, you're right in everything you said except one word you said, stimulus. The government isn't stimulating anything here except government. It's not helping the private economy.
Right, it just moves money from one place to another, from one group of people to a favorite group that they like. And the more they move around, the more chaos that they create in the economy.
Well, we're all in agreement. Absolutely. I think the government isn't the solution to the problem, gentlemen. Government in this case is the problem.
Amen.
Stephen Moore, Dr. Lott, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.